Meteorologist Mark Molnar with your winter 2019-2020 outlook. Let's take a look at the factors. We'll be dealing with a neutral phase this winter. Despite last winter being an El Nino, where El Nino was the big factor, driving force, this winter we don't have El Nino or an La Nina. This makes us much more prone to factors such as the NAO index, PDO, MJO, as well as the sun, the polar vortex, and many other weather pattern factors here across the North America, including sea surface temperature anomalies. So there you have it. We'll be dealing with a lot different, more in line with the analogs of winter 2013, 2014 into 2015, which proved to be a very interesting winter as far as snowfall and cold across North America. So let's get right into the particulars. I'll start you off with this map. We'll show it quickly because it's not very impressive this year. Missing that warm tongue of air or sea surface temperature anomalies here that we saw last year that gave us that El Nino, pretty much missing. In fact, we see a little bit colder than average out here. Your eyes are drawn to the U.S. East Coast here. Look at that. Positive sea surface temperature anomalies. What does that mean? Could that mean bigger nor'easters as we get that cold polar vortex air pushing across the eastern part of North America? Get that sea surface temperatures. All you got to do is get a coastal low forming in that baroclinic zone, that tight pressure gradient there, and you could be spelling some strong nor'easters here across eastern North America. So there you have it. There is the factors affecting sea surface temperature anomalies affecting this winter. So let's get right into the forecast. We'll start off with your pattern. Look at this. Jet stream pushing across the Pacific Northwest. We keep most of the southwest part of the United States out of any reach of any systems. A lot of action in the Pacific Northwest that will dive across the northern plains. A lot of Alberta Clipper action here into the Great Lakes and the Northeast as well. And here across the Southeast, that subtropical jet gets pretty active here across the southern plains, parts of Texas, Oklahoma. And then it pushes its way across the Southeast, makes a run up the U.S. East Coast, and that's where we get the polar jet stream that will be combining forces. And this could lead to many nor'easters, much more than last winter. I know many of you barely saw any snow in parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Some of you did see a good amount, but many of you didn't. So this winter looks to be a bit more promising across the east part of the United States here. So let's get right into the forecast. We'll start off the map you want to see the most. I'll start off with that, the snowfall anomalies across North America based on analog trends, a neutral phase, and many other factors that we've been seeing. We'll start off November pretty snowy across many areas, especially the east, the Northeast, the Great Lakes, into the northern plains. That pretty much correlates with my snowfall anomaly map here, stretching from parts of the northern Rockies into the northern plains here, the Dakotas, Minnesota, into parts of the Great Lakes and the Northeast, and even into parts of the northern Ohio Valley here, the Appalachians, stretching on into the western mid-Atlantic, parts of the central mid-Atlantic and eastern mid-Atlantic, northeastern mid-Atlantic, into New England here, stretching south, as far south as northeast Georgia here, and the western part of the Carolinas. We'll see about 25% above your average snowfall. 50% above average, parts of New York, Pennsylvania, in parts of southern Ontario, Canada, parts of western, central, and northern New England here. We stretch it up towards parts of the Great Lakes, into the northern plain states here in the Midwest, 50% above your average, stretching up towards portions of central Canada here. So there you have it. Most other areas in between here will be about average. We get towards the Gulf Coast, we don't see much snow anyways. See about average here across the southern plains. We get over towards California, Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Nevada. Any of these mountains, the Sierra Nevadas, will be about 25% below your average snowfall. Equal chances further inland here into the Central Rockies. Then we get into the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades. I think you'll see about a 25% above your average snowfall as we get that active pattern, as we get lots of systems slamming into the Pacific Northwest here. So there you have it. There is your snowfall map you've been waiting for. Let's get right into the factors with your temperature anomalies. And there you have it, cold temperatures. You see the bullseye of cold here across the northern plains, Great Lakes, the Northeast. A little bit below average here across the East Coast into the Appalachians. A little bit above average here across the Eastern Carolinas, stretching into Florida. Parts of pretty much the whole Gulf Coast region and the southern states here, a little bit above average. You get closer to the water, the Gulf Coast, the Florida Peninsula, you'll be moderately above average into South Texas as well. About average here in the Central Plains between that zone. And then you have stretching into the southwest here, part of the United States, and that's where you'll get above average. Places like Arizona, California, stretching up to San Francisco. I think you'll pretty much see about 25 to as much as 50% above average the closer you get to the coast here. So a bit warmer than average here out in the southwest part of the U.S. here towards Mexico. So precipitation anomalies, this takes into effect snowfall, ice, and rainfall. You're looking above average, a big area of above average here in the southeast part of the United States. Stretching to Texas, you see a bullseye here. We'll be pretty active here. Subtropical jet across Texas this year into the winter time. Here across the East Coast, you see we follow up the East Coast, positive bullseye here of precipitation, anywhere from about a third as much as a half, 50% above average here. Look at that across the northern plains. You have a pretty decent snowy winter up here in the north central part of the United States, the Midwest, into the Great Lakes. Plenty of chances for lake effect snow too. I think lake effect snow will be a big hit this winter. So we get a lot of cold air intrusions moving their way across the northern plains into the Great Lakes into the Northeast. So there you have it. There's precipitation amounts. And it proves to be, we'll take you into the Northeast here, the big map. You notice west of Interstate 81, that's where your best chance of 50% above your average snowfall this year. Get closer to 25% in the central and eastern part. We have some areas of 50, closer to 50%. The parts of western New England here, the Berkshires, White Mountains, stretching up towards southeast Canada, northern Adirondacks, and southern Ontario. In most areas, right here towards the coastline, you'll be a good 25% above your average. And that's nothing to push aside here, because take a look. Last winter, many of you did not see barely any snowfall in these areas that are 25% above average. So it will seem like a much more harsh winter this winter than last winter. So there you have it. There's your snowfall totals for the Northeast. As always, don't forget to like me on Facebook at MeteoMark. Subscribe to me on YouTube at MeteoMark.com. It's MeteoMark.com, weathernortheastern.com. And I will keep you up to date this winter 2019-2020 as we get closer to winter.